So Super Electric Breaker or Super Charge Breaker, whatever you want to call it, comes out officially tomorrow in Japan. And this video is not about Super Charge Breaker, obviously, from the thumbnail, from the title. But when I saw the rest of the leaks, I was a little bit surprised at the amount, the extra stuff that we kind of got. I was expecting maybe one illustration rare, maybe another special illustration rare, but the other ones that we got, holy buckets. Like, these are really cool. The Durant is super cool. The Clement is super cool. And I don't want to spoil anything if you want to be surprised when you open anything up. So I'm not going to show any artworks. You can kind of look up that stuff on your own. But let me know in the comments section down below what you think. I think Surging Sparks is going to be an absolute banger of a set. It's tough to give away a master set every single new set release. But I think this one's going to be a little bit more difficult to get rid of. Like, it's going to be, once we open it and put it all out there, it's going to be tough to give it away. But we give away a master set every single new set release to one lucky subscriber. So if you want to win the Surging Sparks master set, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on notifications so that way you can be alerted as soon as the giveaway starts. But we should get Surging Sparks in a couple of weeks. Obviously, Surging Sparks is going to be really, really good. It looks super good, and it's going to lead us into some banger sets next year in 2025. But as soon as we get our shipment in, we're going to start building the master set, and then we're going to give it away to one lucky subscriber. Also, you can still go to KarossioShop.com. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. That is our Japanese store. I'm not gonna showcase it right now because I've done that too much already. But the link is in the description. If you want to pre-order Super Electric Breaker, we have a little bit more that we just got our hands on. So we should have, I think we have 104 boxes left, somewhere around there. So go in the description. You can pre-order Super Electric Breaker. I think we have it for $49.99. So that link will be in the description down below. We should have those this weekend yet, and then we'll be able to ship those next week to you. With that being said, I wasn't going to talk about this. I really wasn't, but I feel like we have to. I feel like I owe it to the community to talk about. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a prediction. I never make predictions because I hate being wrong. But I don't think Scarlet and Violet 151 is done. I think they're going to reprint the set at some point. I think we're going to get a big reprint. I don't have any information. I don't have any idea of why I think that, based off of, I guess, historical data and how Pokemon has done things in the past. I don't think we're done. I don't think we're only going to get these small little restocks. Like, I talked to my distributor, one of my distributors earlier today, and he said there's nothing that he has heard that would lead me to believe that we are going to get another large reprint of Scarlet and Violet 151. However, we did an Evolving Skies giveaway. Every week we gave away a booster box until Pokemon reprinted it. So if we have to do something like that for Scarlet and Violet 151, then doggone it, we're going to do it. Because I feel like the community just needs it. Like, the demand is just too much. And what we're seeing right now, I'm seeing a lot of people compare it to Evolving Skies. And the data is there that proves it's not comparable to Evolving Skies, but I can understand from a demand standpoint. So I'm going to provide you with some information, some data, and then I'll let you make a decision based off of the data on what's going on with Scarlet and Violet 151 right now, because it is very interesting. We talked about Scarlet and Violet 151 recently, so I wasn't going to talk about this again, but the FOMO is just screaming at a lot of people, and I think we owe it to talk about Scarlet and Violet 151. We're going to look at pull rates for a second, just this, because I am seeing, obviously, the Charizard EX has made a lot of noise. So this is the Charizard EX at the bottom. I'm pointing, like, you can see what I'm pointing at. You can't see what I'm pointing at. Here's my cursor right here. So this is the Charizard EX special illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet 151. This has this price has just exploded over the past 3 weeks, 2 weeks, somewhere around there. It's gone from basically a $120 card to over $200 overnight. Now, it is selling more, a higher quantity of sales that are happening on a daily basis than what is normal for Charizard EX, but it's not like a huge quantity upgrade, and we're going to look at that in just a second here. But I saw some people who tweeted out, oh, this Charizard EX is going to be the next Moonbreon. It's exactly like the Moonbreon. It's very difficult to pull. It is difficult to pull, but it is nowhere near as difficult to pull as the Moonbreon, and this data proves it. So an alternate art VMAX from any set, Fusion Strike, Chilling Rain, Evolving Skies, any of them, you're looking at over 1,000 packs in order to pull one unique alternate art VMAX. It's going to take you about 5 booster boxes to pull one. It could be the Umbreon VMAX. It could be the Duraludon VMAX. It could be any of the alternate art VMAXs in Evolving Skies. But if you want to pull a specific one, you're looking at about 1,080 packs. That will give you 6 alternate art VMAXs based off of averages. There are 6 alternate art VMAXs in Evolving Skies, so if you pull perfectly, one of them would be an Umbreon VMAX. packs. So roughly about 1,080 packs. We'll call it 1,100 just to make a nice even number. 1,100 packs to pull an Umbreon VMAX. The Charizard V, an alternate art, just a normal alternate art from Brilliant Stars. So we're just apples to oranges here. We're comparing Charizard to Charizard. About 640 packs. It takes about 4 booster boxes, a little over 3, to pull an alternate art V from Brilliant Stars. There's only 4 in Brilliant Stars. I think there's only 4. There might be 6. I can't remember. But anyways, 640 packs to pull a specific, unique alternate art from Brilliant Stars. One of them being Charizard V. It could be, obviously, Luminian V. Luminian V could be your chase card from Brilliant Stars. It's going to take you about 640 packs to pull it. You could pull it better than that. It could take you longer than that. But on average, it's going to take about 640 packs. Charizard EX from Scarlet and Violet 151. Now, I understand special illustration rares pull rates have gotten worse. But Scarlet and Violet 151 was kind of the beginning of the end for special illustration rares. They were not as good of pull rates as what we saw from Scarlet and Violet Base, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames. But they were better than the pull rates that we see from Temporal Forces, Twilight Masquerade, and Stellar Crown. Very on par with what we saw from Paradox Rift. About 33 to 34 packs is what it's going to take you in order to pull one special illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet 151. To make that easy for you, it's going to take you about 6 booster bundles or 4 Elite Trainer boxes to pull one special illustration rare. Now, obviously, that could be the Giovanni's Charisma, it could be the Erica, it could be the Venusaur, but one is basically one special illustration rare per 33, 34 packs. So since there are, I think there's 7 special illustration rares, somewhere around that number, maybe 8, 7 I think, in Scarlet and Violet 151, it's going to take you 231 packs to pull the Charizard EX. So nowhere near as rare as what you might see from the alternate art Charizard V from Brilliant Stars or the Umbreon VMAX. Now, that is just going over data, that is just going over rarity, that does not speak to demand. Obviously, the demand for Charizard EX, obviously Charizard is a very popular Pokemon, but you have a Charizard V alternate art, which is significantly less than Lugia V, Umbreon V alternate art, Dragonite V alternate art. It's selling for about $130, which is still a lot of money, but way cheaper than some of the other big time alternate arts that we see out there. The Charizard EX, which has spiked to over $200, significantly easier to pull, but maybe demand is a lot higher. Maybe that's the case. Maybe, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you and try to explain to anybody that what's going on right now with Scarlet and Violet 151 is manipulation. I'm sure that's part of it, but also maybe demand. It is difficult to find right now. Scarlet and Violet 151 is very difficult to find in stores for MSRP. The good news is Costco is going to be having a deal very soon. There's a link in our description down below for our Discord. Oro just dropped a link. One of my fabulous mods, shout out to Oro, dropped a link. They are going to be stocking these mini tins, which basically breaks booster packs down to about $4 a piece for Scarlet and Violet 151 packs. So pay attention to Discord. Join the Discord if you're not already in there, but there's other places that you can follow on Twitter and places like that. Or just going into Costco, eventually you'll be able to find, hopefully, some Scarlet and Violet 151 packs at MSRP. The problem with right now, the restocks that we're seeing at distribution, they are so small that distributors are selling these restocks for basically market pricing. So the booster bundles that just got restocked, it was very small, and unfortunately, wholesale costs on those booster bundles were about $40 a piece. So the MSRP price point for those booster bundles is about $25. They are being, you can call it scalped if you want, they are being sold at market price. They're being scalped by distribution before they even get to your local game store. So if you go to your local game store and you see a booster bundle on the shelves for $50, unfortunately, it's probably because that brick and mortar store had to pay $40, $42 wholesale for that product. It's just absolutely nuts. And that's what leads me to believe that we are going to get a reprint at some point in time with Scarlet and Violet 151. So that's my prediction. It could be way wrong. You can let me know in the comment section down below. You can say, hey, Fanny, you're crazy. They're not reprinting Scarlet and Violet 151. Move on. They're going to focus on the new Terrestrial Festival set. They're going to focus on the trainer Pokemon. They're going to focus on the Rocket Pokemon. They're not going to worry about Scarlet and Violet 151. It is going to be around in format for over a year yet. And Mew EX is very playable. Outside of Mew EX, there's not a lot, but that doesn't mean that Grabber is not going to become a big thing in the future, or that something else isn't going to become a big thing in the future. Here is the Elite Trainer box right here. We covered this recently. You do see out of the norm sales when it comes to this product starting in August. So you're getting to the point where you're seeing about 100 of these, a little bit more than 100 move on a weekly basis, which is a little bit out of the norm. April, May, June, July, only selling about 20, 25 a week. Now, all of a sudden, once we hit August, then you're starting to see over 100 of them. Now, that could be partly because of demand. Demand could just be, hey, people are really into Scarlet and Violet 151. FOMO sparks in a lot of different ways when you see a lot of content creators talk about it, when there's a lot of buzz going around about Scarlet and Violet 151, you're like, hey, I want to buy some Scarlet and Violet 151. That was a lot of fun to crack. I want to start opening it more. And you could not even realize that FOMO is starting to spark inside you. But this product has really started to grow over the last couple months, especially. It's up about 58.5% for the year. But if you look at the last month of data, really starting to climb much, much higher. All these products are basically sitting at one-year highs right now. The high point on this one was 88.09. It actually hit that a few weeks ago, and it's lost about $1. So 87.37 is where it's currently sitting. But if you rewind time about 10 months back to January, it's sitting at 46.59, which is a little bit below MSRP. So it's been climbing quite a bit, especially over the last couple months. Here's the booster bundle right here. This one's gone absolutely nuts. Now, part of the reason behind this is because there have been a lot more available. There have been restocks that have happened, not just at an LGS level, but also at big box stores. Amazon had these on sale for a little while where you could buy them. They went really quick, but you could find them at MSRP. I believe Best Buy had a restock. The Pokemon Center online, pokemoncenter.com, they had a restock, and a lot of people were able to take advantage of it. And because of that, now they're seeing, these are selling for $45, $50. So they bought them at $25, and they just started selling them on TCGPlayer for $48, $49. So that way they could profit off of them. Booster bundles have gone absolutely nuts, and you can see over 200 of them selling on a weekly basis over the past month and a half, 2 months, which is out of the norm from what it's used to in April, May, June, July. Only selling about 100 of them, and then all of a sudden spiking between 200 and 400 is quite the increase right there. But we've seen quite a bit of movement over the past month where it started going down a little bit and then shot back up. It's up about 22.5% for the year, sitting at 49.55. That's an all-time high. This is only 6 booster packs, remember. So you are looking at roughly $8.50, $8.25 per booster pack if you break it down, which is absolutely insane. At one point in time, this had fallen to $32.79, so it has gained a lot of ground. The Ultra Premium Collection also doing a lot of damage over the last month and a half. Now, this one has not sold above normal levels too much recently. Now, you can see in March, April, May, things had slowed down a lot. It was selling about $45.50 on a weekly basis, and now it's closer to that 100 mark on a weekly basis. But over the past month, really is when things started taking off. You can see that graph right there, really starting to go a lot more vertical over the last month and a half. At one point in time, this was down to $94.56. If you remember last year, right around the holiday season, you could find TikTok deals and find these for like 60, 70 bucks, which was absolutely insane. It's really started moving quite a bit. You're looking at almost 90% growth over the year, and now this is sitting at an all-time high of 183.16. So this one really starting to get a lot more attention as well. Same thing with the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs. This one not quite selling as much as the regular ETB, but you can see over the past month a little bit more as far as quantity of sales go on a weekly basis. You're looking at between 30 and 40 on a weekly basis, as opposed to the 20 to 30 that it was selling a couple months ago. Now, that's not that much of an increase, but you can see demand is there, supply is not really there, and that's why we're seeing a giant growth, especially over the past month and a half, where the line graph is a lot more vertical than what it was. You're looking at about 103% growth, 103.5% growth over the past year, which is insane. This is now a $218.35 item. It was down to $82.78 all the way back in December of 2023. It's gone absolutely nuts now and continuing to climb. Same thing with the Snorlax that's inside there. Here's the booster pack right here. This one is not keeping up as much as what we see from the other products. You can see the quantity of sales staying relatively level for the most part, but it is consistently growing. Now, the pack price is not keeping up with the growth pattern that we're seeing from the sealed product. You're looking at about 32% growth over the year, which is still very strong, but it's not as strong as what we're seeing from like the booster bundle, the ETB, and things like that over the last month and a half. So you're looking at something that was about $5.39 back in December. It has organically grown quite a bit, and it did back off a little bit when those booster bundles got restocked on a lot of those websites, but it has started to climb up a little bit more. It's sitting at $7.88 right now, which is an all-time high for the Scarlet and Violet 151 booster pack, and continuing to trend in the upward direction, just not at the same level as what we're seeing some of those other sealed products. Here's the Charizard EX right here, the special illustration rare. Now, you are seeing a higher amount of quantities being sold, but it's not like what we saw in the middle of summer when we saw all those alternate arts really start getting bought up. But that's probably because availability wasn't necessarily there. It didn't take as much to buy out TCGPlayer as what it did to manipulate it back in the middle of summer. I'm not going to say it's full manipulation that's going on right now, but I do think that is a big part of it. And like I said, you can let me know in the comment section down below what you think. But this has jumped up 73% over the past year. This was down to $102.62. It looked like it was going to fall below $100, and it was relatively level pretty much all summer. So from March all the way up until August, it was sitting there right around $110, $120. $200. And then all of a sudden over the last month and a half, you start seeing a little bit more as far as quantity of sales go, where it took a little bit longer, but then all of a sudden it jumped up like crazy, and now it's sitting at $209.07. I looked right before I started recording this video. It's down to about $207, but still much, much higher than where it was. And that's when you have to be really careful about what you're seeing, what you're looking at, because you don't want those FOMO, that FOMO button. Maybe Charizard EX is the only card that you need from your master set. Well, that's okay. You know, if it's $210, maybe just wait. Maybe your master set just isn't filled out yet. Let it come back down to earth a little bit before you make that decision. Right now, there's a lot of attention being paid to it, and because of that, that kind of tricks your mind. So be very careful. This card is not as rare as what we saw from the Moonbryon. It's just not. Now, demand could be higher for this card. I don't know. I personally like the Moonbryon better, but I think that this card is really cool too. So it's completely up to you. It's an opinionated thought. It really depends on what you feel and you think the card is worth. So don't pay attention to all that outside noise that's out there. I can tell you $209.07, or about 72% growth, with the majority of that happening over the last month and a half, usually points to a card being bought out. Now, I'm not going to say that's for sure definitely what's happening, but all the signs are pointing to that, and that's what we're going off of. We're going off of history, and that seems to be the case in my opinion. Here's the Blastoise EX Special Illustration Rare. This one has also jumped up quite a bit, especially over the past month and a half. It was $40.95 back in April. In July, it was close to that point again, and then started to grow more organically, and then really the last month and a half, again, not a whole lot of quantity sales increasing as far as averages go. You're still looking at about 50, 75 sales on a weekly basis, a little bit more over the last month, but that could be just because there's a lot more attention that's being paid to Scarlet and Violet 151. Its high point right now is $63, currently sitting an all-time high and continuing to trend upwards. Same thing with the Venusaur EX. This has made a lot of noise over the last month and a half. This was about a $40 card at the beginning of August. It's jumped up about 31%. Most of that happening over the last 2 months. It's sitting at $58.16 currently and continuing to trend upward again. Quantity of sales staying relatively flat. It did increase a little bit over the last month and a half, but not a ton from where it was prior to that, especially through summer. Here's the Charmander right here. Same thing, same story. Not really increasing a whole lot in sales, but increasing a ton in price. You're looking at about 30% growth over the past year or so. I just think supply really isn't there for demand right now, and part of the reason behind that is because there is so much buzz behind 151, behind Scarlet and Violet 151. A lot of people are talking about it right now. $23.47 was its low point, which it hit in April. Started growing fairly organically up until about August, and then started shooting up quite a bit more. It's up about 30% for the year, sitting at $43.19. So that is an all-time high for this card. Same thing with Bulbasaur. This one has grown a lot over the last month and a half. You can see that line being much more vertical despite not a whole lot more sales happening on a weekly basis. $19.46 was the low point back in April, and then relatively flat from July up until about September, and that's where things kind of took off. Up about 48%, most of that happening over the past couple months, sitting at $33.82 right now and continuing to grow. Graded cards are also kind of doing the same thing. Here's the Squirtle right here, relatively flat as far as the number of sales that are happening over a weekly basis, week over week. Seems to be very similar as far as the amount of sales go. Really, July is where this one started taking off a lot more, and then all of a sudden August hit and it really started shooting up. It's up about 40% over the past year, but the majority of January all the way up until July was relatively flat, right? Like you can see, relatively flat until the last couple months. $22.17 is where this was in December of last year. Now it's sitting at $35.54, so that's an all-time high for this one. Charizard EX, the full art, has also grown a lot. This one is probably the one that kind of screams manipulation the most. You can see over the past week, all of a sudden it started selling over 100 copies on a weekly basis, where it's only selling about 40 to 50 in the couple of months prior to really October, like July, August, June, selling about 40, maybe 50 on a weekly basis, and then all of a sudden selling 100. Now, it has sold 100 before on a weekly basis, but that was much more closer to the time when the set originally released. So this one, all of a sudden, is starting to get bought up, but that's probably because there's a lot less quantity available, so all of a sudden you can buy it up, and then all of a sudden the price spikes. $40.97 is where it's currently sitting. That's an all-time high for this card. It has been close to that price point before, but that was back in January. It had fallen all the way back down to about $30.02. So you're still looking at about 27% growth. Charizard EX doing extremely well. The Dragonair has been absolutely nuts over the last couple months, especially. This one had fallen to about $13.39 back in April. Very, very consistent as far as quantity of sales go. A lot of people really enjoy this card, and this is a beautiful artwork right here. But then in August, it really started taking off as far as price goes, despite quantity of sales staying very similar. 33% is the growth pattern that we're seeing on this one over the past year, but the majority of that has happened over the past month and a half. sitting at $24.90 right now. That's an all-time high for that card. Here's the Mew EX. This is just a regular art. I wanted to highlight a couple regular arts right here. This one is the only one that doesn't really scream manipulation at me, but part of this is because it is just such a good competitive card, and it's being used a lot more in decks, especially after the World Championships. In April of 2024, this was down to $3.07. Now, it hasn't hit its all-time high, or its one-year high. That was back in October, not too long after the set released. It was at about $7.77, but it is up to $6.18 right now, so it has over doubled in price over the past 6 months. Again, that restart ability, this is the same card as what you get in the Ultra Premium Collection, just a different design, different artwork. It's a regular art. There's also a full art, which is doing really well, and then the gold card, which isn't doing as well. Those all do the same attacks, but because this one is the cheapest option, that's what a lot of competitive players go with. $6.18 and continue to climb. So if you have extra copies of this lying around, now is definitely the time to trade them off, or really close to now, so that way you can kind of maximize the price point that it's at, so that way maybe you can add pieces to your collection, and then all of a sudden these giant increases that you're seeing out there don't impact you as much. The Charizard EX from this set, the regular art, is also doing some interesting things right now. That card has jumped up to about $6, $7 a piece. That one's not impacted by competitive play at all, so that one's more based off of buyouts and things like that. That's something that maybe you want to consider trading off right now, but overall, just 151 going nuts right now, and a lot of noise being paid to 151. And like I said, I wasn't originally going to record a video about this because it's just so much noise, but I also wanted to calm everybody down because I don't want anybody to make any bad decisions or rash decisions based off of all the noise that they're hearing out there. So stay the course, do what's best for you, do what's best for your collection, your wallet, things like that. Obviously, we have a lot of really cool sets that are coming out, and the last thing that I want is for you to overspend on something that comes back down to earth really quickly. We saw this happen in the middle of summer with a lot of alternate arts. They came back down to earth. I feel like this is going to be the same thing, especially with that special illustration for Charizard, especially with a lot of sealed product. I will keep you posted, obviously, as soon as I get any wind of any reprint that might happen, or if I get confirmation or news that they're not going to reprint the set. Obviously, I will make sure that I give that information to you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the video. If you enjoyed the content, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. We'll be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace.